If you're one of these people who believes that climate change is a hoax, and you listen to all the research done by the fossil fuel companies, which try to exonerate them and say that they're not the problem, you have to remember one very simple thing. Many years ago, research was showing that tobacco caused cancer. And the cigarette companies decided to do something about that. And they actually invented a safe cigarette, and they called it a safe cigarette, and they were going to market it. But then their lawyers said, hold on, for years we've been denying that cigarettes are unsafe. And all of a sudden we're making one call it a safe cigarette. That's an admission that we were wrong and that cigarettes are unsafe. We're going to face litigation from people who want compensation for what we did to them. We can't do that. And the safe cigarette was quashed because they simply couldn't admit that they were wrong and they were liable for the pollution of our lungs because of litigation. And once you realise that, you see that the fossil fuel companies can't admit that climate change is real. They can't go into alternative fuels and say, this is better, because that implies that they were wrong all along, that their fossil fuels were causing the problem. They simply can't admit to it because they're scared of being sued by entire countries that are suffering under climate change, and people who will do a mass lawsuit against them. So when you hear them denying climate change, it's simply because they try to cover their tracks so they will not be held liable for what has happened. It's as simple as that. That's why you hear all this information from them, why they pay researchers to try and show that climate change is a hoax. They can't admit it, even though they know it's true. In the same way, you might have been duped by the cigarette companies, you're also being duped by the fossil fuel companies. Wake up to that and recognise that it's only them covering their backs. And besides, as I've always said, the fossil fuels will run out eventually. So even if we don't do it now, at some point we'll have to. We'll be forced to, before the world descends into a world war over the oil that's left. Might not be us, might not be our children, might be our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. But at some point it has to happen. So let's do it now. Let's move away from fossil fuels before it gets that bad. That makes common sense, besides the argument was made. Follow me for more.